Hello and welcome to That British Homestead. My name's Nick, and today I thought I would show you all of the photos that we've taken this year. That's right, all the way through the growing season. I've been taking photos every so often, and I thought it would be a really great opportunity to sort of show these to you. Everything that we've been doing, from digging manure to raising chicks to harvesting and growing. Thought it was quite a really great way of saying goodbye to this growing season, which has been awesome. Although we've had it's been a bumpy ride, hasn't it, guys? Right? We had that really late frost that absolutely obliterated my poor little seedlings, and I remember being so disheartened and upset and worried about that. I lost all of my crops. So I remember being really like down in the dumps and upset, and I put out a video like, oh, my seedlings, because I didn't turn the heater. Do you remember? I accidentally turned the heater off, and then a big frost came and I lost all of my beautiful seedlings that I spent hours and hours and hours, like nurturing and etc. And then like I thought I lost like all of them, and I hadn't, which was really excited. I lost some of my flowers, so I didn't grow as many flowers as I wanted to this year, but that's okay because I got quite a few anyways. Also, we had though that quite like bad drought this year, and it was just so significant, that drought, after such a hard spring, that lots of people lost lots of their crops. I myself did as well, lost quite a few crops, and that was very hard because it kind of feels like when you lose some crops, it feels like you want to give up and you want to sort of have nothing left to sort of give and just curl up and be like, fine, whatever. And it is difficult. I do feel that lots of people were really greatly affected by the drought, and it was difficult. We are very lucky in this country to have, like a water supplier where we don't have to worry too much about the water, the availability, as in they didn't turn off our water to our homes. We had drinking water, we had water to bathe, etc. I know that lots of people did have the hose pipe ban. That must have been awful for them, especially if they had an allotment for watering and things like that. We went to, if you have an allotment, you have a committee, and every so often, all of the committee, not just committees, but all of the members of your area get together. And one of the things that we were talking about was the hosepipe ban and what we were going to do in that sort of situation to help people that are less able than ourselves, perhaps that they are disabled or elderly, etc., to like help them get water to their plots and things like that. And of course, we set up all of these really quite extensive rainwater catchments, which you can see in a few of these pictures, the blue barrels that are around other people's allotment and my own allotment. So it is one of those things that you have this difficulty. I wouldn't say hardship, but it was a difficulty, and you kind of adapt and learn from that. And now lots of allotments have really significant rainwater catch systems put in place, which is awesome. You can see them in the back there where there's lots of blue barrels, and basically it is really important to have that, because not only is that's rainwater, is so much better for your crops, but it's also better for the environment, isn't it? So you're purifying less water. It is also one of those things, you have something bad happen and you learn from it. For example, my beautiful seedlings, something bad happened to my seedlings and I have learned from it, and I won't be making them same mistakes. So it is important sometimes to have bad things happen, because that means that you are more prepared next time. And now our allotment has started to bring horse manure onto the allotment. So it's going to be delivered once a week, and I know, right? I'm so excited that like you can practically hear me dancing about it. I'm so happy about that. Like, that is just a game changer, because I was driving at least half an hour away, digging a load of horse manure and then physically carrying it back, and I was absolutely pooped. Excuse my language, but I was. And now I'm going to try to bring back that black plastic, put down some cardboard and do no big dig beds. I might cover it back up with plastic, I might not. I'm going to experiment and see how the weeds are in that sort of situation, but it will be very exciting. I'm very excited about next growing season, and I am still very much on my promise to myself that I'm going to concentrate on some cold crops. I want Swedes, I want cabbages, I want carrots, I want kohlrabi, all of those things that now that's all I want to eat. I don't want tomatoes and peppers and things like that this time of year. I just want those. So it's really great that I have a lot of these crops, and I'm getting low on carrots, and it's only November, so sorry, did I say carrots? I meant onions. So I'm very low on onions, so that's not good, because this is the part where, okay, I've canned all my food, don't get me wrong, but I want to move on to using a lot of onions. I do have my onion powder, which I honestly, guys, if you grow onions, the tops of the onions, if you chop them off and dry them, you can make them into onion powder and onion salt. I did that 2 years ago, and I'm still eating on it, and it's amazing. And I didn't do it this year, and to be honest, I absolutely, like, it's my favourite thing. Like, it is literally my favourite thing. So I'm going to make sure that that's a priority for me, to keep and preserve those tops of the onions to make onion powder. I think you can make it with the bulb. I've never done it before, but I'm like 90% sure that you can do that. I'm also going to sort of look at ways of storing food that will not attract rodents and that will be easy to store. So like freezing, canning, powdering and things like that. That will be really great for when I'm sort of storing things in the garage and storing things away. At the moment, I haven't had any issues with squash and mice, or rats or anything like that, because I just don't. I just don't, right? Especially if you're in an outhouse or a shed, then you do have to worry about that, because, to be honest, guys, there's no way of keeping them out. As horrible that sounds, and you can put down humane traps or inhumane traps, wherever way you lean, but at the end of the day, life finds a way, is how I'd phrase that. So I do want to think about that. So far, like, I watch a lot of other channels and things like that, and I do comment being like, oh, I see that you have your squash on a shelf, that's interesting. How are you not getting attacked by rodents? You know, like, casually though, like, it's super subtle. And so far everyone's like, no, they're just not interested in my squash. So if you do have a different sort of experience, I'd really benefit from you just letting me know, so that you're like, right, Nick, don't leave all your squash in the garage. You're going to regret that decision. Because sometimes I'd rather learn from experience of somebody else than negative experiences of my own. But at the moment, I'm super happy with all the squash I've got. I love squash and I eat quite a lot of it. I know that I'm going to double or triple my mashed potato squash, as I've given them to several people and they've loved them and they keep asking me for more of them. So it'd be nice to have enough that I can freely give them away, and I have enough for all winter long. I also want to take note of how long they last, because obviously if they're all sort of like tumbola squash, if you keep that as a winter squash, that by sort of January, February, that's done. Okay, you have to use it or lose it, because it starts getting those small rotten patches on the outside. So that's something that I will keep in mind. Whereas like them Buffy balls, oh my days, Buffy balls last for almost a year. They have such a thick skin. So I'm going to sort of mediate all the way through and see what I can keep and what I have to kind of consider putting away before I have to worry too much about it rotting or anything sort of getting to it before I can, because we do grow a lot of squash. The idea of our allotments, or having 2 allotments, is to grow enough food to last us an entire year, which sounds magical and wonderful. However, when you are growing something for an entire year, you do have to consider that you do need to store that item for a significant portion of time. So if, for example, you can change a type, change a variety, and not compromise on taste and have it stored for that little bit longer, then that's something that I would be quite interested in. However, I'm not willing to not have that wow factor when I'm eating something, because this takes a lot of work, guys. Like, you know, if you grew anything, that this takes a lot of work. So you tend to want to have something that's amazing, right? You don't want to do all of this work and be like, wow, that's fine, I could have got that at Asda. No, you want to be able to say, wow, that's the best tomato I've ever eaten, or wow, that's the best pepper I've ever eaten. You don't want to say, wow, I could have got that in Asda, because that's just disheartening. Also, flowers, aren't they beautiful? I am making a conscious effort to grow more flowers, okay? Flowers make me happy. I like looking at them. I like getting out into the open and just staring at a wonderful flower. And I want to be able to grow more of the flowers that I like and the flowers that I love, especially those for cut flowers. I would quite like to have the ability of taking some cut flowers into work, like once a week or something, and have them on my desk so that I can look at them and have them sort of as a special connection to my allotment when I'm at work. That would be very exciting. Or even having some dried flowers that I can take in throughout the winter. That would be really special for me, because I'm just really liking just having a look at them, really. I think they're so beautiful. It's like one of them things, I come to the allotment for the vegetables, but I stay for the flowers because they're so nice. Also, I've noticed that since I've been growing flowers, I haven't had a single issue with pollination. Some people were saying that they have issues with, like, for example, things not being pollinated properly, squashes. I know I did quite significantly at home, but I really don't. And I was actually quite concerned because up until this year, we had beekeepers on the allotment. And this is the first year that we have not had any beekeepers on the allotment. But I haven't had a single issue with any pollinators, because my patch will absolutely hum when I've got all of these cosmos, I've got the daphnias, etc. And I find that incredibly wonderful and such a great opportunity to sort of bring in the pollinators, and having something for them to have and eat all the way through the year has been on my mind recently, especially when I'm starting to think about seeds and seed sowing next year. Because if I don't make a conscious effort to plan to have these beneficial things in my allotment, then of course they're not going to come. They're going to go somewhere where they are better facilitated. Of course, yes. Makes sense. So it is something that I am making a conscious effort about, and making sure that I know and understand what I'm doing. Also, I was quite blessed this year with rhubarb. Now, guys, like, I used to be like, rhubarb, that's fine, I can make it into a pie. Like, I would use it if I ran out of apples, sort of thing. And then I made rhubarb jam. I just want you to know that rhubarb jam is the most amazing thing that I've ever eaten in my entire life. And it is so incredible. I made rhubarb and ginger jam. And you know the fact that because I said the word ginger, I went all the way to the shops to get ginger. I never go shopping. So, like, that was a special jam. I wanted to try it. I had zero high hopes for it. And then I tried it. And it was amazing. I really recommend it. If you don't like rhubarb, try it. If you like rhubarb, try making jam. And if you've never heard of rhubarb, try making it. It's really good. Honestly, it's at the point now where I was like, I have too much rhubarb to, man, I need more rhubarb plants. It is that good. I've eaten an entire jar within, I want to say a week, but I hope it's a little bit longer. Oh man, it was so good. I had it at work. I was having it with Greek yogurt, and it was like really exciting. I had to budget it. I was like, right, you can't have it every day because you're going to end up eating too much. So I have it every other day, and it is amazing. I'm really looking forward to it, and I've had it for like a week and a bit now. So I've just bought my second jar to work with me. So that's very exciting. I know most of you thinking no one asked. I know. I just wanted to tell you. It's really good. I'm really excited. I've actually got to split my rhubarb up this time of, like, when it goes dormant. I will just take a spade and split it in half. I've never done this before, so I will kind of do it and hope for the best. But if you've got any tricks and that, please let me know. I really don't want to kill it, but I will see how it goes and what happens in that regard. I am really hoping it goes well. I have read a little bit about it, and basically it says that you are able to split rhubarb crowns by you just using a spade and splitting them when they're dormant, and it is something that you would do if your rhubarb is either overcrowded, which mine is as well, or going to seed. My one on my second plot is going to seed quite a lot. Now this happens quite a lot in the, is it not Victoria? Yeah, Victoria, in the Victoria one. Victoria tends to go to seed. Apparently, I think the flowers, I'm not going to comment because I can't remember if they're edible or not, but I know the leaves are not, so be careful about that. Anyway, I'm very excited about splitting them, because if I split them correctly, which I hope I do, then I'll be able to sort of have a better quality plant and have it more sprayed out, so that I'm able to have a abundance of wonderful, delicious rhubarb that I can make into jam and that I can eat at work, which is very exciting. And I know it's really weird because most people bring sandwiches to work, but what can I say? I bring rhubarb jam and yogurt, which is very exciting, I know. I feel like I've done so much on this allotment. I know I keep like randomly changing the subject, but I really do. I feel like very accomplished looking back at these pictures and seeing what I've done. I mean, I've had some disappointments, don't get me wrong, but so many things that I'm just so proud of myself, and I feel like time well spent if I spend it down the allotment. Whereas if I don't spend it down the allotment, I tend to get very grumpy and feel like I've wasted my weekend. If I'm just like relaxing at home, I'm just like, what a waste of a weekend. But it is incredibly nice to have that sort of time down the allotment. And Jasmine was saying to me the other day, she said, Mummy, you're always smiling when you're down the allotment, which is just testament to how much I just adore being down there and doing all these amazing things and harvesting everything. I mean, it is an incredible amount of work, and some days I think to myself, why am I doing this to myself? But it is so magical to have that time with your thoughts, because when I'm down the allotment and I am filming or whatever, I have no way of like making sounds or listening to the radio or listening to a podcast or anything like that. And I really, really like the fact that I cannot do these things, because I have to be to myself and think to my own thoughts and sort of listen to the birds and take that minute to calm down and to de-stress. And I think many people don't take that opportunity anymore, and that's a shame, because that opportunity to be with yourself, you get to know yourself, you get to sort of decompress from the week. And I think this is a fundamental sort of mindfulness exercise that everyone should be taking part of, because it is really good. And I never thought this before I started going down the allotment and having that time away from the screens, away from sound, and away from listening to something electronic, which it seems so simple, but I do really benefit from, and I do feel the stress, that little bit extra, if I cannot or do not take that moment for myself and have moments where I'm able to have sort of a one-to-one experience with myself and listen to the birds and the sounds and things. The only thing that is a little bit sad about the allotment that I personally have is that you are always in earshot of a major road, and that is quite regularly the issue in the UK, that you do always have a sound of traffic, quite significantly, which is sad, because it'd be nice to be in the middle of nowhere. Maybe perhaps down south or up north it would be a little bit different, where I live in quite a built up area, so that could be the issue there. And it would be nice not to have that sort of noise pollution in the background. But saying that, it is delightful having such a wonderful harvest, and I'm really just so excited about how many things that I've actually managed to get in. And I've got so many pumpkins and squashes and things like that I'm going to be storing away for the winter and have to feed me and my family for a very long time, which is a blessing in itself. And I'm so incredibly grateful, and this is why it's so great to have this moment to like reflect on this and have this sort of thoughts where I'm thinking I am so incredibly lucky and I am so incredibly blessed. Not that it isn't a lot of hard work, it is a lot of hard work. I don't want you thinking, oh, this is very, very easy. It is not easy. It is hard work. It is a lifestyle and not a hobby sort of thing. But it is something that I'm very passionate about, and I do think that people should dip their toe into growing their own or commit to growing your own, but start small. So I say to people, start small. Maybe it's one flower pot like I started with. Spoiler, I killed that tomato plant. I snapped it in half. Actually, can't remember if it was myself or Jasmine who did it. Maybe it was Jasmine who was helping me. I was meant to look after it for like a preschool thing, and I killed it. Then I moved on to one garden bed, right the way up, few pots, and now I have a lot of room to spread out and to grow whatever I want. And that isn't the case for most people, and that is awesome. And this is the one thing that is, well, not the one thing, but this is one of the things that are awesome about the UK. And I think Europe as well, because I know that Germany has them too, but allotments allows people who don't have outdoor space to get outdoor space so that they can go ahead and grow whatever they want. Because if you live in a flat, it isn't necessarily that you have that area that you can dedicate to growing. And we do forget that. We forget how lucky we are and how we really do benefit from these things. And I have to say, this allotment has really changed my outlook and how I see things and what I do with my time, which is awesome. If it was up to me, I would probably spend all my time down in the allotment. But obviously that's not the case. I do have to work, and I'm blessed because my job is very, well, to me, important. And I think that it is a blessing as well as having this wonderful harvest. I think sometimes it's easy to forget that as well, and sometimes it's really important to reflect on the last year and to think about all the things that I am incredibly grateful for, like my dog in the background who's chosen this moment to eat a bone incredibly loudly. Thank you, Bailey. Thank you for that. I've had to I've had to tell him off like 5 times. He's actually sulking. He's in the hallway. He's sulking because he keeps coming in here and throwing his bone around and making a complete racket whilst I'm doing this. He is a silent dog unless I have this on, and then all he wants in life is to make noise, which is lovely. Don't get me wrong, but it is slightly annoying as well. And bless him, I would literally never change him for the world, but I would maybe like to train him to be quiet whilst I'm doing this. It's probably impossible though. But bless him, he is such a good boy. And he does come down the allotment with us, and he will be starting to calm down the allotment a little more. I think I need to invest in a 6-foot fence because bless him, he thinks that all the allotments are his allotment, and he's fast. So I do want to have the ability to keep him in so that I don't share his love with all of the allotment people. So I don't think that's quite fair. But we'll see what it's like when he gets a little bit older and keep bringing him down. I tend to take him for an incredibly long walk before I go down the allotment. So he tends to just hide under a tree and sleep, which is awesome. But I do want to get him used to it because I feel like if you get a puppy used to something, then they are so much more likely not to freak out and to be okay with it when they're a dog than if you kind of like don't show them to more sort of examples of what you're expecting them to do and you want them to do. It is important to have things like that sort of in place, the expectations in place. And he, like I said, is very good and can be very, very, very patient down the allotment. I mean, I know that, for example, I can walk into the chicken coop and have him come in behind me, and he is not going to hurt those chickens anyway. And that is because from day one, we've installed in him that birds are not to be chased, birds are not to be hurt, and no animal can be harmed, which is great. It also means that he's made friends with rabbits and mice and all animals. He finds friends. So, which is really great. That's what we wanted. That was one of our main focus when we got him, was that he would sort of be with our animals so that we could even possibly have him stay with them unsupervised, not like for a long period of time, but for example, he could go in and out in the summer and I don't have to go out into the garden, just like we had with our old dog. Our old dog, Alfie, never had to be, well, didn't never, that's a very strong word, but when he was confident around them and we were confident with him around them, we didn't have to sort of mediate. We knew that he was okay. Of course, you should always supervise animals together and children with animals, but you do need to work up a level of training where you can feel free to leave them out with animals. It's very important for us and our lifestyle, so that, for example, I wouldn't have to call him in to go to the toilet or something like that and stay out there the whole time. I can be cooking dinner whilst he's in the garden, if you know what I mean. And that was a really important thing for us to do in our lifestyle. Thanks so much for watching. If you haven't done already, please subscribe. Thank you and goodbye.